person. I'm doing this live stream together with a few friends, and we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic today. Okay, so what we are doing is basically going live, and I'm going to be talking about the topic of ghosting. All right, so we are going to be talking about ghosting, and we're going to be talking about what it entails. But it's not just going to be me alone, it's going to be a few others as well who are going to be part of this conversation, and they are also going to be around to share their thoughts, their experiences, their questions, all around ghosting. Okay, so I have a special guest with me today. He's very young, and he's one of the talents that we've noticed, and he is someone who has experienced ghosting as well. So I'm going to be inviting him to join me on this conversation where we will have a lot of questions asked back and forth, and we will answer the topics and clear your doubts on ghosting. So please put your hands together to help me to welcome Wei En. Hi, Wei En.
Hi, Vivek.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm glad you're here as well. Really good to have you here. So, before I even ask you any of these questions that we have around ghosting, can you share a little bit about yourself, make a quick introduction so that everyone else who's viewing know who you are?
Sure. All right. So, hi everyone. My name is Wei En. So, I'm currently a year two undergrad in School of Accounting with SMU, and at the same time, I'm also a financial consultant with AIA.
Wow, wonderful. Okay, so Wayan, we are going to be talking about this topic on ghosting. So, according to you, right, this is something, I mean, not just according to you, I think everyone understands ghosting is a very millennial, very Gen Z kind of a behavior. So, can you just share with us what exactly is ghosting?
Right. Okay. So, I think, like as you mentioned, ghosting is a word that is coined up by the younger generation. Like people younger than me or even my era. So, I think to put a more technical sense to it, I think ghosting will be more of a practice of really someone choosing to end a relationship. So, whether personal or professional. Okay. And then but they do this by suddenly ending any form of communication. So, they withdraw themselves from communication and they just disappear. And this is their choice of how they want to end the relationship. So this is, and in a way, what people mean when they hear the word ghosting.
Right. So, basically, is it only for romantic relationships, or does it also apply to professional or friendships and stuff like that as well?
Mm. So I think when this word started going viral, it was for use for romantic relationships. So when a partner or when someone you're dating doesn't really enjoy your company anymore, then they'll ghost you. But I think the thing about why it's becoming more and more known is because it's happening in even the corporate situations and various settings in schools, in offices, which is why I think this is a phenomenon that a lot of people are starting to talk about. So I think, as you mentioned, this is not just in romantic relationships anymore. So we see this in families, even family chats, in offices, and in many professional settings as well now.
Yes, yes, I believe that as well because I've also been a victim of being ghosted. so,
Oh no.
even though it may have started out in the romantic side, romantic relationships, I believe that this is becoming a behavior that's being seen also in professional settings. It's being seen in amongst friends as well, whether it's after a conflict or whether it's after a disagreement, right? They just simply ghost and disappear, right? We are seeing this, of course, at the workplace. Sometimes people say they'll come for the interview and then they just disappear and then they don't even respond. We don't even know what happened to the person. And sometimes it's just with your friend as well, like when there's some kind of a difficult conversation and you don't know how to answer the person, they just disappear, they ghost you. And sometimes it's blocked, sometimes they don't block you, they just blue tick you, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's something that we'll also go into later on. So I'm just curious, like, how did this term ghosting come about? I mean, what does this have to do with ghosts, or why is it even connected?
Okay, I think to put it very simply, as the word ghosting, you hear it. I think it's something like what a ghost does. It just basically appears and disappears like whenever it likes. So I think the so-called the root word from ghosting is really ultimately just choosing to disappear from the relationship or disappear from communication. as and when I like, and without any form of reasoning or any form of explanation. So it's something that is the easy way out. I just disappear
Mm.
whenever I want to.
Right. Now, the younger generation are the ones that people point to when they think of the word ghosting. Now, why do you think the younger generation are the ones who's taking the hit when it comes to terms like this? Like, why do they say that, it's the younger generations who ghost, the older generation, they don't ghost, right? They don't know how to ghost, right? So, why do you think the younger generation takes the hit for this kind of a behavior?
Okay, I think thinking of it in a macro point of view, right? Ultimately, I think the reasoning why the younger generations learn how to ghost faster is because we are exposed to more social media. We're exposed to more technology where a lot of communication is moved online. So, say for example, even on WhatsApp, on our social media platforms, now we can easily block someone without any reasoning. So previously, being able to block someone or being able to mute someone is a security function to protect our own privacy. But I think a younger generation has because we have this function every day. So
Sorry, I lost
sorry,
you.
I think I got disconnected.
Yeah, you got disconnected.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
I'm so
You were
sorry.
saying? Yes.
Yeah, so I think because we have such tools to really
Easier to
remove people.
block, you were saying, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that's why the younger generation grew up with these functions. That's why I
Mm.
think as and when we find it difficult to communicate with someone, we just resort to these tools, and ultimately slowly we adapt, and this has become part of our lives, part of how we handle conflict, how we handle our relationships.
Yeah, so it could be like a coping mechanism to dealing with conflict, except they're not dealing with it; they are avoiding conflict through ghosting, as you may say. Last time when you don't want to get a call from somebody, right? Like maybe like your school teacher say they'll call your parents. Last time they will take the phone, right? If your phone is on the wire, is the wired phone, not the handphone, right? You take it out from the receiver part, right? Then the call won't go through. Is that considered ghosting also?
Wow, I think that's the old school days of ghosting.
Cannot connect with the person's line because it is not so the receiver is not on the, I don't know, the button thingy lah, right?
Yeah.
So is that considered ghosting? Because I don't want you to call my parents, so I take out the receiver. Is that considered
Wow.
ghosting?
I think that would be. I've never thought of that, but I think that would really be a throwback to the OG days of ghosting.
OG.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that made ghosting so difficult. It was so troublesome. Yeah, well,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
just
yeah.
click one button. I don't want to talk to you. Bye bye.
But it's not just one person, and nobody can contact you once the receiver is off. Nobody can contact you. The phone call, everyone also cannot contact you. So it's not ghost one person, it's ghost everybody. Nobody can call you at that specific number. It will not
Mm.
dial through. Anyway, I digress. Right. So I'm going to ask you a personal question. Like, is it normal to ghost? Is it a normal thing amongst your peers? Have you been ghosted or have you ghosted someone before?
I think personally, I think in the past, I admit to having ghost people before, because I
Mm.
think it was the easy way out. Like, let's say I was talking. Okay, a simple thing that I'm still, maybe I was just my most recent guilty case. Yeah, I was talking to this person on Carousel that I wanted to buy a bag from, but then like after a while I realized I got a better offer. Then I just like, okay, I don't have, this guy doesn't interest me anymore. So I just like did not reply.
Don't
Yeah,
bother
so
replying.
yeah,
But
I didn't
that's,
bother.
that's like a buyer slash vendor kind of conversation. I'm talking about deeper relationships, like people you've
Right.
known for a while, maybe for 3 months, or you getting to know, like dating, right? You get to know the person for a few months. Maybe you go on one date or two dates, or maybe colleagues, things like that. So what about deeper relationships? Does ghosting also apply in that kind of relationships as well?
Yeah, it sure does. So I think for me, my most memorable one, of course, be a romantic relationship I had with my ex in the past. So I
Mhm.
think after breaking up, like over online, over text, and then suddenly she just disappeared. Like I got blocked. But I think one of the
Mm.
things that I face more common now from day to day is really in my work and even in school, which I thought was rather amusing to myself. So at work, sometimes when I communicate with my clients, after I talk to them after a while, maybe build rapport. Sometimes when there are dates where, for example, when I set an appointment where I'm supposed to meet them on a certain date, everything was going well, and then suddenly I just suddenly all contact is gone, so it's just I don't understand why, because everything was happening so well,
Smoothly,
and
right?
even in schools, like during team projects, let's say I was supposed to do a project with this friend, every all the conversation was going well, and then suddenly this friend of mine that I've known for a few months, maybe the whole semester, suddenly stopped replying me, and then it's like,
Mm.
yeah,
And
it
you
puzzled
don't know why, right? You don't know what you did, or that it raises so many questions about
me.
what is actually happening in terms of did you do something wrong? Did they get upset? And there was no closure slash conversation around why the person went missing. Sometimes people are busy, and that's
Mm.
understandable. But when someone suddenly just blocks you out of nowhere, it can raise a lot of questions. How do you feel when you are ghosted in that sense by someone that you've known for quite some time?
I think initially when I first got ghosted, firstly I was very confused. I was
Mm,
like, I think a lot of emotions mixed together. Like you said, I think it was a lot of emotions that came together. And I think the main idea was I was very confused. So I didn't know, like, did I make the person angry? Did I talk too much? Did I say something wrong? Did I offend them? Or what went wrong? What exactly went wrong? And then after a while, I just felt a bit sad lah. Like why I start to like blame myself for like the something that went wrong, because I didn't
mm,
understand why. So, but I think after it happened time and time again, maybe we have gone to become used to it. I don't know
mm.
whether is it right or wrong, but I think because it has been happening so commonly, not saying very common, but it's happening enough that ultimately I've come to see it with an open mind. I mean, I'm still until now I still don't understand the reasoning after
I
everyone,
also don't understand.
right? I think it really still puzzles me. I'll
I don't
still
think
get
it's
my head
just you.
around it.
Yeah,
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 but
yeah, yeah.
mm,
So, like, has okay. So let me ask you the other question. Has someone who has ghosted you reconnected back with you after a certain point of time? That means they disappeared for a certain period, and then did they reconnect with you?
mm. I think there are a few cases that did. So some examples would be maybe in school where the
Mm-hmm.
person I was supposed to work with ghosted me and decided that they don't want to work with. But then when I bumped into them again, face to face, then they were like, hey, they suddenly struck up a conversation with me, and I think they really explained about what happened and why they disappeared from me. Then only then we slowly reconnected, and we were able to connect back again. So I think that was one of the few um, reconnections that I had after being ghosted.
And was it awkward when you had to reconnect? Was it awkward for the person or for you?
Oh yes, it was very awkward for me. So because, like I said, I didn't know how to react. I didn't know what went wrong. So is the person like going to be have a cold shoulder towards me, or is the person going to be nice? Or I really didn't know what I was expecting. So for me, I was really very confused. So I kind of took the cue from him when I saw him. I think when he smiled at me and like kind of approached me, then okay, so maybe this guy still wants to reconnect. That's when I had a conversation with him, and then I really understood where what happened. But before that, it was really, yeah, it was kind of awkward. I didn't know what to expect.
So he actually explained himself, and there was a certain closure to that behavior
Mm.
and that kind of awkward phase that happened. So you understood where he was coming from. You could empathize with him, and you could so-called move on from there and continue with the friendship, right?
Yeah.
Am I right to say that? Uh, what I noticed, right, is that even though you were the one who was ghosted, you tend to feel like you are the one who did something wrong, and I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling where when you are the one who's ghosted, it's like, did I do something wrong for that person to take such a drastic action? It's a pretty drastic action to block somebody or to just totally disappear from their lives, especially if they have been very cordial, very friendly, and very open with one another, and there hasn't been any kind of a rift, there hasn't been any kind of a big fight or conflict. So it can be pretty scarring as well for the person who was on the receiving side to feel suddenly ghosted, and and to hear that you were thinking, did I do something wrong? I think everyone can relate to the fact that it's not just the person who ghosts who feels bad is also the person who get ghosted who feels bad and starts doubting, self-doubting whether they are the ones who did something wrong. And even if they didn't do anything wrong, that comes to mind, right? But sometimes we don't know. Maybe we said something that offended them. We don't know. So we tend to go down that downward spiral of did I do something? And that is such a bad space to be in. Now, what is a practical hack that people can use to overcome this habit of ghosting? Because we are seeing this become a habit, and not just in romantic relationships, but in professional and in friendships. Ghosting is becoming like the go-to solution, is a shortcut, right? So, what do you think is a practical hack that can be used for people to avoid ghosting and instead do something else?
All right, so maybe I'll share a little bit more about what I try to do to avoid my previous bad habit lah. So I think for myself, I used to tend to avoid difficult conversations and tend to avoid conflicts because I just didn't like to put myself in such positions. So when such things happen, I tend to just retreat and I just tend to avoid. I think that's ghosting, you know. So I think something that I'm do now is to become really more conscious about my conversations with others. So in the event where let's say there's a conflict that comes up with a friend or there's a conflict that comes up at work, I'll make it a deliberate action to tell them like, hey, let's talk it out. You know, let's have this conversation and let's resolve it, rather than retreat it from it. So what I tend to do is I try to resolve it as soon as possible, so I don't sit on any conflicts or any problems that I have in my relationships. So I think that's something that really helps me, because what I feel is after sitting on a problem for a while, yeah, let's say we have an argument, and and we don't talk about it. After a while, I just feel like, okay, maybe never mind, he's okay with it. And then after a while, I just, nah, let's forget it. Let's not talk about it. And I'll just disappear. And then this is the cycle that happens over and over again. So something that I try and keep myself to is really um, facing the difficult problems that I have, facing the difficult conversations that I need to have as soon as possible.
Yeah, and keeping in mind the relationship is not something you don't want to burn the bridge, so to speak, lah, right? Because when you go somebody, it's almost as if you're burning the bridge if you don't have a strong reason for ghosting, or if you don't give a proper explanation. Then it's almost like as if you either got really offended and then you did this action that justifies the ghosting, or you must have some real kind of emergency kind of a scenario where you had to disappear for a while, right? And if the person who was ghosted doesn't get that from the individual, they really feel very hurt as well. And I think there are a lot of long-term consequences when it comes to ghosting, because ghosting can not only affect the person who's ghosting but also the victim of the ghosting. So, what are some of the, like, what do you think are the long-term consequences of people who tend to have this habit of ghosting?
I think one long-term consequence they will have is, personally for myself, you will find that you will tend to find the easy way out of solutions. Okay, I think that's something that's more macro, but ultimately after choosing to retreat from conversations and choosing to retreat from difficult situations and difficult relationships, you'll tend to find yourself retreating from problems, and there's a habit that you will tend to have in your life. Okay, so there's a more macro thing that I realized from when I ghosted people in the past. But I think another more prevalent consequence is the image, your social image that you have among your friends. And I think what's worse still, maybe among your corporate situations and the professional situations that you have. Because I think ghosting someone and choosing not to reply or choosing not to face the problem will ultimately diminish your credibility. You'll just be
Yes.
seen as someone that is irresponsible, someone that is unable to take criticism. And I
Hmm.
think ultimately this will affect your credibility, whether in your social or whether in your professional settings.
Yeah, it affects your reputation as an individual, right? People
Mm.
will start to speak about this person, and they will start sharing stories and experiences of how this person said they'll be there and then they suddenly disappeared. So the level of trust of the individual goes down, their reputation goes down. People will be much more afraid of this individual in terms of trusting the person, right? And it really affects them, and it's so hard to build relationships. It takes years to build relationships, and it only takes one behavior like this, right? One event like this to completely destroy the high reputation that you have, right? It's always easier to destroy everything, but it's hard to build it back up. And like I like what you said as well, right? It really doesn't build the resilience in the person. It doesn't. So if you are someone who's going to ghost, it means that you don't have the courage to face difficult conversations. And I love the fact that you've realized it and you have embraced that this is something I must learn to do, in so that in the long term it doesn't come back to bite me, because everyone who is ghosting, sooner or later in the future it will come back to bite them, right? So, and that is inevitable. All right, it may not happen, but there is also an equal chance that it may come to happen. Thank you, Wayne, for sharing so much. Now we are going to be introducing another person, a mentor, right? Someone who has experience into the room as well, to share his take on this topic of ghosting and what he thinks, about this topic. So please put your hands together to welcome Victor Lim. Hi, Victor.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Good evening.
Hi, Victor. Good
Hi.
evening. Thank you for
Pretty
joining
good
us.
conversation you guys have.
Yes, yes. Victor, before I ask you some questions, could you share a little bit about yourself? Make a quick introduction as well.
Oh, I run a team. I mentor a lot of young people, some older ones. Yeah, and I do enjoy the mentoring, especially the next generation. I think that these young guys have such a long road ahead of them, and I think it can be a wonderful journey. So I'm very interested in coaching, mentoring people like that. I
Mm,
find that I find that I can be useful. I think that's the important thing in life is to be
yes,
useful.
yes, yes. To be helpful to the people that we have around us. So, Victor, you've kind of listened to what we've been sharing about on ghosting. What is your take? Right, ghosting is a younger generation phenomenon. What are your thoughts on this?
I have a wish, and my wish is that after hearing this conversation, between you and Wei En, I hope that the world of ghosting will stop forever.
Yes, yes, yes,
You
yes.
guys can change the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts. I think that ghosting is something that I never heard of when I first started work. We don't ghost and neither do we get ghosted. But the world is a different place now.
Yes, yes.
It's so different.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I believe
So
social media and all that has made it kind of like a normal thing now to ghost, like how you can block people on Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram, so social media. They tend to do the same, by blocking you in person as well. So it is a horrible, horrible thing for anyone to go through. And my condolences to you if you have been through ghosting. Now, what do you think, Victor, is the root cause of ghosting? Why do you think the young generation tend to ghost? What is your take?
um, I think that the this generation is very different. So perhaps there are various things, but maybe one of the things is that really I just want to do what I want. I don't really
Mm.
care.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the impression I get. It's like it's not important. I don't care unless it matters to me. I don't care how it affects other people, right? And sometimes it's a very scary thing because that we hear so many scary stories that people get very hurt, right, by all kinds of things, and even social media. People can commit suicide. People can die, as a result of all these things that are happening. So it's quite a scary thing, and I think that there's a lot of hurt uh, nowadays, right? You don't even need to meet somebody to get hurt,
yeah,
right? You just look at the screen, you can be so hurt,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It
yeah,
can hurt really bad.
yeah,
Yeah, you don't need to even talk to anybody. So I think that that these kind of things happening, and the root cause of all these things is that maybe people are maybe less face to face, especially after COVID. You know, we have less interactions with people, and I really think that is not a good thing. Yeah, I think that it's really good to be able to go back to what I think life should be, meeting people face to face. You know,
Mm.
it's like real, right? This digital thing is like unreal. So we live in a world of things that are unreal. Maybe it's like imagination. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. For those of you who are tuning in, please feel free to share your thoughts as well. We've got a lot of comments from different sites. We have Megan saying that it's very relatable. We have Derlin saying that he has encountered ghosting before. Jessica has said, I have been ghosted by many candidates as well. And Mark Lim has said that I admit that I've done that. So maybe I think he's admitting that he has also been someone who has ghosted other people. Now, it is true, right? Ghosting has become a very common behavior today. Victor, what do you think is the long-term consequence from your point of view? Because you are a senior, you are someone who is, working with these young people. What do you think are the long-term effects of individuals who tend to have this habit of ghosting, this behavior of ghosting?
I think the greatest long term effect is that people do not realize how it affects them personally as a person.
Mm,
Yeah, because
mm,
when you do that, it says something about you, right? So the effect is something that the person do not realize what's going on in your life. It's like values, right? So I think the person that will be not just affecting a lot of other people, but ultimately it's affecting that particular person
yeah.
that has been ghosting so many people, right? They didn't realize what effect it has on them. But I think it really, in some ways, is really affecting the individual deep
Mm.
down inside without the person knowing.
Yeah,
Without the
especially
person knowing.
self-esteem, right? Their self-esteem will go lower and lower, and they'll get even more afraid of conflict. They wouldn't know how to handle conflict, and they will just continue to avoid conflict as much as they can, right? If they can escape, they will just take the escape route instead of going through the difficult conversations that need to happen. I think they don't realize that having difficult conversations actually is also a way to strengthen the relationship and have better understanding, to practice empathy for the other person as well, so that you don't only just say your point of view but also understand from the other person's point of view where he's coming from, and giving and having a good conversation with one another, which is a little bit more deeper, a little uncomfortable. It's in our stress zone, but it still helps the person grow as an individual. Definitely, I think this is one of the key things. Now, Victor, and also to you, Wei En, we're going to the last question. What do you think, right? Maybe come up with one tip. What do you think we can do to empower the youths around us to, replace ghosting with a and better behavior? What do you think we can do? Victor, would you like to go first?
Better behavior definitely is to, like I say, change the world by stop your ghosting, because you really can affect many lives, right? And of course, the most important is yourself. So I think this ghosting is something that we need to learn and then make that change to realize, how much impact it has on people and yourself. And I think that you'll be a much better person. You will definitely grow as a person, as a professional. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. So basically, start with yourself, right? Don't try to change the world, change yourself. If you have been guilty of ghosting, don't ghost, even if they are a vendor or even if they are a close friend. Regardless, make sure you don't practice the act of ghosting. Okay, Wayan, what is your tip?
I think for me it will be learn to have the difficult conversations. Don't avoid conflict. Because ultimately when we look at our relationships, as cliche as it sounds, they say having the difficult conversations are the ones that really build these relationships and build our relationship with people around us. Yeah. So really have these difficult conversations and learn to take criticism and learn to give criticism well. I think this is something that we really need to learn and practice. And so after a while, this will allow us to have a better communication with others. And ghosting won't be a problem that, or won't be a solution that even surfaces in our mind anymore.
Yeah, I think from what you're saying, we can all take back the fact that what doesn't kill you actually makes you stronger, right? It sounds cliche, but it
Yeah.
actually really makes you a lot more resilient, mentally strong as well, right? So, thank you so much for sharing about your tips on ghosting. Thank you, Wayan, for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, your experiences. Thank you, Victor, for adding wisdom and knowledge to this conversation as well, and giving a different take on what you feel is ghosting and your experiences around it. Now, before you go, for the rest of you who are here, right, I would definitely encourage you to share your experiences on ghosting as well, because we also have some surprises for you. For those of you who are here, right, we have some surprises. So I'm just going to quickly check the comments. Right. So, oh yes, Mark has said, right, that what he meant by that behavior is that it was he has also tried to disconnect his phone, not that he was ghosting. So thank you, Mark, for clarifying that. Right, it's important for me to do it. And I think we have Dylan who's saying that he also did it last time. He picked up the phone, the house phone, and then place it beside. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. And we have Chun Long who's saying that he did a lot of ghosting when he received a lot of bank calls and asking if they want to take up a loan or want to sign up for credit cards. And last time don't have these PDPA, so people can just call you and sell products and services. So yes, I understand. Thank you so much, guys, for participating in this conversation. It really helps. If you have been ghosted before, how have you been handling this? Please share in the comments as well. How have you worked around the situation? How have you tackled this situation? And as you are doing that, I'm going to let Victor share a little bit more about what are the prices and what are the surprises that's there for them, for those of us who are here commenting right now.
Hi. Yeah, it's about understanding yourself in a much deeper way. How many of us really understand ourselves really, really deeply? It's like, there are people who say that people out there actually understand you better. They are looking from the outside. And so sometimes we can't see ourselves. It's like a blind spot. And some of us has more blind spots than others. And through what we have done, this anagram profiling, which is a very deep study on your own personality, why you do certain things in a certain way, how you respond to life's various challenges and things that you want to pursue. So we're offering this anagram a profiling tool, right? Has some questions to answer. It's very easy, multiple choice. But after answering all these questions, you get to have a very good understanding, by looking at the scores, and then we will interpret those scores for the person to check this one thing, whether you are a healthy or unhealthy individual. The test will show. And the good news is this: if you find that you have a lot of healthy traits, then we want to know what are those. How can it help me in my life, in my career, in my relationships, in my own pursuit of life? How does it help me? And then when we look at what traits we have that we consider the test show up unhealthy, then you get a chance to understand yourself, how these traits are hindering you from becoming better version of yourself. So this tool, I'm really excited. We've done a lot of coaching sessions for various individuals, a couple of hundreds, a lot of students, right, from various universities, and everybody has found it useful. They've never seen a tool like that goes so deep into understanding themselves. So we also are doing a coaching session, a complimentary coaching session, and in 45 minutes, you really get to know yourself in a much deeper way. Then you can hit your next phase of a better version of yourself, and it's going to help in all your relationships. It's going to help you in all your work life. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, if people want to get this personality profiling session, what should they do? Should they type "I'm keen" in the comments? What should they do?
Yeah, please type "I'm keen" here, and then we will send you a link. You answer those questions, and then we send you a report, and then we're going to have a coaching session to help you understand yourself a lot better. Yeah, just type
Right.
in the group chat.
All right. So, if you're interested in getting that free coaching session to really better understand yourself, understand your behaviors, what are your blind spots, right, and how you can become a better individual at work, right, at home, then please type "I'm keen" in the comments, right? Even if you're watching this in the replay, type "I'm keen" in the comments, and we will all get back to you with the link that you need to fill in. And if you are already seeing the QR code, also feel free to scan the QR code, answer a few of those questions, and we will also be in touch with you. With that, I'm going to wrap today's live session. We talked about ghosting. I think we had wonderful insights about what this phenomenon is. We really hope it doesn't continue into the future instead of spreading like wildfire. And let's all of us do our own part to make sure that we put an end to ghosting by taking up that self leadership and encouraging positive behavior along the way. So I'm thanking you all. I'm going to end off today. Thank you all for joining us. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye bye.